Well done.
All right.
All by yourself.
All
Good.
by myself. I am so proud of myself. Anyway, welcome to class 4. And my news of the day is that I finished my book at 10:30 2 nights ago. Yay! Sent it to the publisher and let them, it's about a 9-month process to get published, but it's on Why I Trust the Bible. So I've been reading more Bart Ehrman than I ever care to read again, but it's been a good process. But it's nice because I have nothing to do for the next 8 months than to work on this book. So I'll be working on homework, and I will get ahead of you guys now. I'm sorry I've been kind of at the last minute on this stuff, but.
So what motivated you to write this book?
I speak on the topic a lot. When I speak on translations a lot at universities because I've been on both the ESV and the NIV. I'm kind of an odd duck, and so it's easy for me to get in places and speak. And my board wants me out speaking more publicly, so that was the initial reason. But we always give away books, and I realized one day Zondervan didn't have a single book on the reliability of the Bible, which just struck me as the oddest thing.
You teach a class by that name on biblical training?
Yep.
Yeah, I started watching it until this class. Now I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah, so that's how it started, but it's about 70,000 words, so it'll be about 200 pages.
Is it
So I assume you answered the question yes, Bill.
Curtis?
Did you answer the question yes?
Yes.
Is it focused more on the canon, the accuracy of translations, or the manuscripts?
It's all of that.
Okay.
That's what makes it a little different. I had 8,000 words on historical Jesus, contradictions in the Gospels mostly, canon, textual criticism, translations, and then the Old Testament. And so it's 2 chapters in each one. The first one's kind of broad. The second one's much more detailed. So it's usually when I speak on it, when I cover like what's in the first chapter in each section, you can see people kind of relax, say, okay, we're safe, we're okay. But then the other chapter's there for more detail. Are you serious? My power, can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because my power just went out. How can you still see me?
Your laptop.
Yeah,
That's
but I'm going through the internet.
Yeah.
Which is
your internet must be on a USB.
Just a second, let me make sure. Did all the power go off? Oh, did you blow it? Just a minute,
Yeah, while we're waiting, do you mind if I ask you all
right.
a question?
Woo!
Okay, no.
Robin turned the breaker on and off because we have a weird stove that we can't reset without turning the breaker off. So okay.
I just want to mention the password that's posted in the cohort chat has an extra digit.
No, are you serious?
Yeah, many people have figured out, which is why many of us are actually here.
0217 1953.
Well, I had the one I saw had a 6 in it.
I'm looking right at it.
Well, that is weird.
Oh, that is really weird.
Not the one in the Zoom ID. That one has a 6, but the personal meeting ID below it.
971 236 3287. Okay.
That is,
Cohort looks correct to me.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm sorry for the trouble. When they changed the law on us, we had to adapt. So anyway, but that is the ID, and the Zoom. When I create the thing, Zoom says this is a personal meeting ID, but it's asking you for a passcode, right?
Right.
Yeah, I will change that in one shot. But anyway, everything's gonna be consistent and whatnot. So, okay. Hey, I've had a great day today. I went back to the beginning and worked through everything if you're on, you know those files that say Accordance workspace files? Those things all work now. And they're little files. If you double click on them, it configures Accordance to how it is in the screencast. So when you're doing the screencast, if you want to follow along, that is kind of a setup file. And so that stuff is all working. But
However, Bill, figuring out how to make Accordance look like yours is half of the trick.
Yeah, well, let me see. And the problem is if you don't have all the resources I do, then it fails. It doesn't load any of them. So tell you what, let me make a default one and I'll send it to everybody. So you can just double click on it and it will load it up the way I'm going to use it. But it means, yeah, I'll figure out how I want to do that, but that's a good idea. All right. I went back through everything. One of the things I realized we haven't done anything on is the vocabulary. And I always forget, is Faith and who's taking this for credit?
I am.
Oh, three of you. I'm gonna make some quizzes up, and because I gotta quiz you. And so, but you really need to be sure you're learning the vocabulary. The problem is that if you don't memorize vocabulary, when you look at a screen, you don't know a single word on the page. But if I think I have the words, these are the words that occur, I think it's 500 times or more. And in the, let me go to the right. I think it's an orientation. Let me just check. Yeah, if you go to orientation, there's a vocabulary link that downloads all the vocabulary for this class. So you can get it there, but it's really important that you all learn that. And I'll make up some quizzes and send to you guys. Terry, I did get all your, Faith, I got all your homework, so thank you. So anyway, this is my big catch-up week, so I'll be able to do that.
You get my homework?
Yeah, the three of you, I just need spend some time talking about, no, it's Faith sent in her homework, I think, but I've got to get something so I can give you a grade since you're getting credit for it. So I'll just talk to you guys individually about it.
Yeah.
So there's
I click when I finish the homework. I click finish. You don't get that?
No, that's just a way. That just puts a checkbox in the screen so that for that lesson, so you can see where you are on the lesson.
Okay.
That doesn't send any work in. Paul?
There's an app called Flash Greek, and Flash Greek includes a bunch of cool stuff, including if you want to use like the Mounts BBG, and then you can pick which chapter, and it will quiz you on all of the words and everything. And it also pronounces them using Erasmian pronunciation.
Okay, I'll look it up. It'd be good to get the database, get them the database for this as well. So
yeah.
So Kevin, do that.
Sorry, Paul, what was that one called?
Called Flash Greek.
Flash.
I think it's $4 or $5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's excellent.
It's my favorite of the Greek vocabulary apps.
Mine too.
Terry, and I think Paul, you're taking it for credit as well, hey?
Right.
What I found has worked really well is just copy and pasting the homework from the website into a Google document.
Yeah.
And then you're able to type in Greek if you download that keyboard. And so you can just go through and answer all the different questions on there, and it's right in the document. I found that worked really well for me because then I can look back on what I've already done. And then it's a little bit easier, I think, for Bill as well to see what we have completed and what we haven't.
Okay.
Thanks. And I just finished copying all the homework into it and formatting it in a word processor. So I've got a real clean copy of it, and I can send that to you as well, that you could put in Google Docs or however you want to do it.
I'm just not, I have PC, Windows 10. I'm not sure how to get the accents.
Well, let's stop a minute and let's pray for Terry on Windows 10. So one of you guys mentioned about an app that does it, and I haven't had a chance to check it, so we'll get going. Well, all this stuff will get caught up, so I'm just glad to be able to do this. Okay, I went back through all the homework real slowly. I think we've been covering everything. I redid some of the homework on prepositions, but I needed to confirm something. We talked in class about, and the book says about, that a preposition governs the case of its object, and that prepositions can have a pretty wide range of meanings. Did we also talk about some prepositions can take objects in more than one case? Okay, we did do that.
Yes, we did.
Okay, in the third edition of the grammar, I'm pulling that information out of a later chapter and putting it in chapter 6. It's too hard. That's too important of a piece of information. So if you're confused at all on prepositions, go back and look at the homework that I did, specifically the last section. What it does is it lays out verses that correspond to the vocabulary that you learned in that chapter. And it gives you verses that give you illustrations of each of the prepositions. You can find their objects and confirm their cases. And then for those prepositions that take more than one case, there's multiple examples of that. So you can see how dia can mean both through and on account of. So if you're confused on that, then the homework there should help you. Any questions on the grammar of verb inflection, both English verb inflection or Greek verb inflection in the indicative? We're going to look at some homework there, but I want to make sure just theoretically y'all got it figured out. Stems, personal endings. You got that chart down. The present is used to describe an action that normally occurs in the present, and it can indicate anything from a point in action up to something that is always true. In other words, anywhere on the aspectual continuum. The future we generally translate as an undefined, as a simple construction. But the imperfect, we always try to make it continuous, normally in the past. The aorist, we always make it simple, normally in the past. And the perfect, we just use have and has. That chart's clear for you all? Because that's a really important chart. All right. I went back and see if we get it in the right chapter here. Just a second. Where did I put the stuff on the middle? 7. All right. I'm sorry. What chapter is the middle in?
It's on page
Non-indicative.
39. It's in chapter 9 on page 39.
Oh, okay. Then I'll wait till 9 till I get on it. I wrote some notes out for you. All right. I want to look at some illustrations. These are in chapter 8. And let me share my screen now. And what I want to do is I want to look at some verses, and I want to I want to make sure that we're clear on how the tenses are working in the indicative, okay? So let me just go through these. The first one's Matthew 3:9. And, you know, when I pull these up, If you guys have like a second monitor or something, it'd probably be good to bring them up. But on Matthew 3:9, and we're looking only for indicative verbs, so the non-indicative forms I want to ignore for right now. So like this is a subjunctive, we'll ignore it. But so do not presume to say in yourselves, that's plural, so it's, you know, among yourselves. Father, we have. We may have looked at a few of these, but I really want to get through because these are really important. So this is just as simple, first person plural, right? And where's the subject? Right, it's in the ending, right? It's not expressed. There's nothing in the nominative. So we have Abraham as a father. So this is a normal present active indicative, no big deal. For I say, first person singular, to you that God is able. Okay, here's that middle. You know, I'm going to go ahead and talk about middles right now. It's easier. Because that's actually a good one to illustrate. So what's the middle? Middle voice. We have active and we have passive in English, right? If a verb is active, it means the subject is doing the action of the verb. If the verb is passive, it means the subject is receiving the action of the verb. So Bill hit the ball, hit is active, so Bill's doing the action. If you say Bill was hit by the ball, was hit is a passive, it means the subject Bill is receiving the action of the verb, right? So Bill hit, Bill was hit, active, passive. Greek has this nasty little voice called the middle. And I don't know why it's called the middle, other than it sits in the middle between active and passive, I guess. Here's the problem. Academics are right smack in the middle of a major change in how we look at middle and deponent verbs. And I got stuck in this middle problem because when I did the 4th edition of BBG, because if I just left things the way they were, people would say I'm not staying up on my Greek. But the problem is the people pushing the change haven't proven it yet. And so in 5 years, hopefully they will have proven it, and we can say this is what we know. But the problem is if you pick up a commentary, you're going to read the old stuff. But eventually you'll be reading the new view of the middle. See why it's a problem? We're just right in the middle of academics reevaluating what the middle is. The basic definition of a middle is that when a verb is in the middle, the subject is still doing the action of the verb and is still doing the action to a direct object. But in some way, attention is being focused on the subject. In other words, it's like the subject uses the verb to point the finger at the direct object, but it also loops back around it itself. We call it self-interest. All it means is the verb in the middle in some way is emphasizing the action of the subject. Now, the reason that sounds kind of goofy to English is that we don't have anything like that at all. We have reflexives like Bill bit himself. I bite my lip all the time for some reason. So that is part of the function of the middle, if you do something to yourself. But in most cases, the middle is really nuanced. And so here's the basic rules. When you're doing a mouse over and it comes up and it says middle, just treat it as an active. We just don't have a middle. We don't have the nuance of the middle in English. We cannot express the idea of the middle in English. And so they're all going to come out as actives anyway. So if you said, speaking about, biting my lip, if you say Bill bit his lip, bit could be in the active or it could be in the middle, and you would still translate it exactly the same way. Bill bit his lip. Just because we don't have a middle. So what will happen, you do your mouse over, it's going to say middle, and the translation is going to be an active translation. That's not a mistake. That's just middle. So does that make sense? For the most part, when you see a middle, it's going to be translated as an active. Now there is, second statement, there is another category of words called deponent. This is what's in chapter 9. And when I was learning Greek, this is what we learned, and it's what's in your book. A verb that is deponent is a verb that is middle or passive in its form, but it's active in its meaning. So if we had, for example, let's do a word, a Greek word, and we're gonna. Oh, I'll just do Erkamai. Oops. You know, if I could type. Can you hear my son yelling? He's very loud. He's like me when I was young. Anyway, I need a present. All right. Let's get an indicative. All right, I'm sorry. Hey, my feeling is slowly coming back into my fingertips. So, thank you. They can't see it, but ooh, I have another steak dinner tonight. Thanks, Rob.
We came into this in the middle of this story. What the heck happened to you? What happened to your hand?
Oh, well, this hand I broke when I was in Australia. Thank you very much, Francois. I was on a beach and I tripped and fell. And I got a boxer sprain and cracked and broke my fifth metacarpal. So it did a compression right here, and I lost my feeling in my fingers. And I've had it worked on, and it came back. So 14 hours from Sydney to Atlanta with your hand in a cast is a very long airline flight. Luckily, they gave me all kinds of drugs, so it was fine. This hand, I was working really hard for 2 weeks, and I pinched nerves, and I can't feel the end of my fingers. So I can't turn pages. I can't button shirts. It's a real pain in the neck, let me tell you. And so I flew down to California. My nephew is a very high-end chiropractor and a specialist in something called ARC, active release technique. And so he started working on the nerve compression that's right here. And it's going to be months though before I have my hand back. But that's why I can't type, because I can't feel my keys at all. Anyway, that's the story. All right.
That's why I try to steer clear of beaches.
You know, there was not a log. There was not a stone that it was just the wave went out and I lost my balance and I went over and snapped it. Now, the only good thing is, and thank you, by the way, emergency visit, saw a nurse. I saw a doctor, not a PA. I had an x-ray, a cast, and pain pills, and it was $180.
Yep.
So thank you. I was dreading the bill. And this guy was trained at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. It's really, really good training. And so I like it.
At the risk of starting a debate, as I say to all my American friends, universal healthcare works in Australia and we are not a communist country.
I think you have a different
Same here in Canada.
Yeah, different culture is a problem. Anyway, okay. Well, let's do this first. This is about baptism. But John was trying to prevent him, meaning Jesus, saying, I have need to be baptized by you. And you come to me, ? Here's a good example. You look at the parsing, it's second person singular, present middle indicative, right? But it's translated as an active. You come to me. If you look at the lexical form of the word, it's echomai, that omai ending. If the lexical form of a word ends in omai, it's what's called a deponent verb. And it means it will always have an active meaning. It'll always have a middle or passive form. So that's explaining what's going on down at on the parsing of this thing. And what's going on in the new discussion of the middle is that people are denying that, well, it's not really a deponent, it's just a kind of a middle. So they're kind of sucking them all into this big hole called the middle voice. But anyway, so the first thing is that when you see a middle, it will be an active in its meaning. That's fine. The second thing is if you notice that it's an omai verb, then it's always going to be active in meaning, even though it'll be middle or even sometimes passive in its form. Does that make sense?
We don't have an English equivalent, but do we have any sense of sort of psychologically or intellectually how people understood the middle voice, how it made them feel? Did they feel happy or sad or dull? Or do we have any sense of what it meant to them?
No. That's the problem. It's just not it's not one of our categories. There are certain kinds of words that are middle, like any kind of grooming. I, cut my hair, or I put on my clothes, that kind of, those are all middles because you're doing them, but it's having a direct impact on you. Mm-hmm. This is all third year Greek, by the way. This is really, I wouldn't even spend much time in second year Greek on this. So it's real fine tuned, but you'll need to make sense of it. The other thing, and when you do the parsing, the other thing is that in the present, in the imperfect and in the perfect, the middle and passive are identical in form. And what accordance will do is that they'll have one line that says middle, and next line will say passive. In other words, the parsings are all form, not meaning. So, hey, look at this, guys. I do have Logos. Look at that. But I can't search it. I wanted to do a search. This is why can't I search in a Greek text? Logos, guys. How do I search for a Greek word?
It looks as though you're still in accordance.
Oh, I wasn't sharing my screen. I'm sorry. I
did have a quick question though. Did the middle voice carry on into modern Greek, or was that just the Bible study Greek?
It's all gone.
It's all gone. Okay.
It's all gone. There, can you see Logos now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Logos, guys. I'm in a Greek text. How do I search for some? Nope. Oh, there you go. So here's. He wasn't just. I'm looking for it. Well, I didn't highlight it. Oh, there it is. So you see what Logos does along the bottom left corner, how it has that pop-up that's parsing it?
Yeah.
They say it's a verb present, either middle or passive. So they're doing the same thing. This is John 5. John 5:7. So in accordance, let me just see what. Oh, there it is. Oh, just a minute. Oh, that's Erchomai, yeah. Okay, yeah, accordance is just saying it's a middle. But if this were a different word, it might say middle or passive. So anyway, so middle is a highly nuanced thing, probably not worth thinking about. This is the form that in the placing, it says where tongues will cease. This is the most controversial use of the middle. And a lot of people say, well, because it's in the middle voice, it means that they will cease in and of themselves, i.e. at the end of the first century. That just simply is a complete and total misreading of the middle. That's not at all what the middle means. I don't know who first said that, but it's not even remotely accurate. Is what MacArthur teaches? Oh, that's why. Yeah, it's don't. Yeah, but anyway, so middle or passive form, active in meaning. It'll come up as middle passive in your parsings because they parse form. If it's the lexical form ends in "oh my," then you know it's deponent. It's always going to have an active meaning. Okay. Make sense? All right. Well, I wanted to get back to those verses that we were looking at because I wanted to just spend a little bit of time with the indicative. So we were in Matthew 3:9. For I say to you that God is able. Hey there, that's what I was looking for. See that down below? Present middle indicative, present passive indicative. They're just saying it could be one or the other. We're not going to commit to it. But you'll notice the lexical form is dunamai. So this is a deponent verb, so it doesn't matter. So God is able. You get a active translation. Out of the sea stones to raise up children for Abraham. Okay, makes sense, y'all?
Mhm.
I've got to find a way to be able to see your faces when I'm doing this. All right, Matthew 4:19. Again, it's a couple simple forms, but he says to them, so no express subject, doesn't matter. Follow, it's an imperative. After me, we looked at that last time. And I will make you fishers of men. So poieso is your simple future. But it's, in terms of aspect, these things are always translated with simples. Can you see how it made it into a future? Can you see what Greek does? Look at the lexical form. Then look at that form. Can you see what it did?
You took out the sigma?
Mm-hmm. It did two things. It lengthened that final epsilon to an eta and added a sigma. That's how you form the present. That sigma is what forms the present. A future, thank you. Again, so if you were doing traditional Greek, you'd have to memorize all that. This way you don't have to. All right. Matthew 2:21. And getting up, he took, I'm supplying Joseph just from the context. He took the child and the mother of him and went into the land of Israel. So these are just two simple aorists that I wanted to show you. Just nothing fancy. He took and he went. Okay, so when you get an aorist, the translation is all default to the past time. Not always, but usually. And it's simple translation, all right? Matthew.
Bill, if I can ask a quick question.
Sure.
In the panel at the bottom, your accordance is showing more information than my accordance. How do you control what's shown down there?
Are you doing a mouse over on the Greek or on the English?
Oh, that's how you do it. Okay.
Yeah, see, well, I'm on my translation over the word took. And it still had, because I have NA28 tagged, see right here it says NA28-T.
Right.
That means it's the Nestle Aland Greek text version 28, but it's been tagged. And the tagging means these things are connected. So when I have that, you can still see it over on the right-hand side, verb, third singular, aorist, active, indicative. It's just that when you go over on the Greek, it shows you in a little different order, maybe some more information.
I have a question about how to keep them scrolling together. So sometimes I'll add another Bible or something, and all of a sudden it's not scrolling with everything else.
It's right there. The I think it's the untie scrolling. Let's just see. Yeah, so that, okay, so that stops it. Tie the scrolling, then it scrolls together.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, what I do is to set up your defaults. The best thing is to go into preferences, and I especially like, you know, pick your fonts, pick your sizes, your lighting, all that kind of stuff. And then that applies to all of your documents. And then if you want, when you go into one of these, it's Command T, you can set it different from the rest. And when you're done, you say use as default. And that way it'll always come up as that setting. So you have an overall default you do for all of them. And then it's like normally, like in Greek, I like a little more spacing for my eyes. Use as default, save it. Now I'm gonna have a little more spacing. And so when I quit and then start back up, then this is how it's gonna be. Matthew 2:21, 5:15. We'll get into some of the other different forms because I want to show you some of the flexibility. Because Jesus says, nor do people light a lamp, and this is your just right present active indicative, and put it under the meal tub. Meal tub? That's a real basket bowl. What's a meal tub, Bill? Oh, well. It came from somewhere. But upon a stand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. What I wanted to show you is this is a present tense verb. But notice that time really isn't important. Jesus is stating an axiomatic truth, a general truth, something that's just kind of broadly true. And it's true in the past and in the present and in the future. We call it a and we'll get more into this in 2 weeks, but it's called a gnomic use of the verb, where time simply is irrelevant. And the nice thing is in English, we have exactly the same construction, don't we? You probably never thought about this before, just because that's how we use the present tense. We use the present tense in English to describe timeless truths. And that's what's going on here. The present does that as well in Greek. So it's just a good example of a timeless truth. 1 John. What you will learn is, as is true in all languages, everything is kind of an approximation. And you can say it's generally this, but not always. And here's a good example I wanted to show you. We know that every person who's been born of God does not sin. No, oops. Let me make these bigger. We know that everyone who's been born of God does not sin, but the one who has been born from God keeps him, and the evil one cannot harm him. Could you shut that door? Thanks. What I wanted you to see was this. What is it parsed as?
Perfect, active, indicative.
Mm-hmm.
Pluperfect.
Yeah, no, this one's perfect. What you're going to find, like I said, is that the basic rules in Greek apply, 90% of the time, but they don't always apply. Oideman is a very odd word that functions as a present, even though in form it's a perfect. And if you get what's called the pluperfect form of this, it functions as an aorist. You go, well, how on earth am I supposed to know that? Well, there's two ways you can know that. One is that you could look it up in a dictionary and it would tell you. But the other is trust your translations. If you come across, in this case, a perfect and the translation's present, there's a reason for that. I can tell people there's no random translation in any Bible. I've never found one. And when we're voting on both the ESV and the NIV, my rule was always to find why did they do it the way they did it before I vote to change it. Because there's always a reason. They're never, ever, ever random. Same as the NASB, the CSB, and even in the NLT. So when you come across an oddity like that, like this, well, it's perfect. We have known is how you generally would translate a perfect. But the fact that everyone's translating as a present tells you something. And if you want to run it down. But what I don't want you to do is to look at it and say, oh, it's a perfect, that's a mistranslation. No, I may have made a mistake, but the NIV doesn't make a mistake. And frankly, the ESV doesn't either. Excuse me, I'm going to add in, just to be fair here, we'll keep my old buddy there. See, we know. So there are these oddities that are going to happen. Now, you guys stop me. You're going to have to feel free to interrupt if you're not. I can't see your hands if you're raising them.
I was wondering.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, now that you've moved on.
It's okay.
In the last one, it was so when you go over what it's translated to as we know,
Mm-hmm.
they're all highlighted, we know, until you get to the ESV, and then it's just no and not highlighting we. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, this was this is a function of my parsing that lies behind the Mounce NT and the NIV. I've tagged the English to the Greek, and I tagged it in my translation, and I tagged it for the NIV as well for the reverse interlinear. That information, I gave Accordance way more information than they have on these other translations. And they just don't have an ESV that's tagged smart enough to know that Oideman is translated not by know, but by we know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What they did, they took my parsing, my tagging on for my translation and kind of applied it to the ESV and the other ones. I don't get paid royalties for that. This just occurred to me. Anyway, but so if you use mine, and what the two different shades of blue are is that the darker one is when there's a phrase, they call it phrase tagging, that the darker one is the word translation that's closest to the Greek word, but we is necessary to translate Oideman.
Okay.
That's why there's two different colors there.
That makes more sense, because when I've been going through and using Accordance, I've just been using a Greek text alongside the ESV.
Yeah.
And there's been many times where I'm looking at it and there's certain words just that aren't highlighted or included at all in the Greek. And I figured, okay, so they were added so that it can be grammatically correct in the English. But it's interesting seeing it highlighted in different colors when you're using the other texts as well.
Yeah, they don't have a tagged version yet of the CSB or the NET, and they'll never have one of the NLT. So anyway, that's why those didn't show up. Okay. This is one of my all-time favorite verses, because remember I said on these translations, these verb tenses, that they tend to be used a certain way, but not always. So for the aorist, we say that it tends to describe actions occurring in the past, and they're undefined. They're not saying anything more about the nature of the action. They're not saying it's continuous or anything. And this is the verse I go to emphasize this. This is my heretical verse. Why did Jesus submit to a baptism of repentance? It's one of the big questions, right? Well, I think that God wasn't happy with his son, and Jesus sinned. You can't see, but hopefully you can hear my sarcasm. Jesus sinned because look what the Bible says. A voice came out of heaven. You are the son of me, the beloved. You are my beloved son. In you, now eudokeo means to be pleased, but what tense is this?
Aorist.
It's aorist.
Yeah.
Oh, see, what the voice from heaven really says is, in you I was pleased. So, obviously, Jesus did really good right up to the baptism, and then he blew it, and he died a sinner. All right. I don't generally do that unless I can control the mess that I'm creating. It's a perfect example. The aorist normally describes a past action, but it doesn't have to. The genius of the aorist is that it looks at the event from the outside. It looks at things as a whole. And we can't do that with the past tense. Our past tense can't function that way. So what the voice is saying by using the aorist is that I'm looking at your life as a whole. I'm standing outside looking at the whole thing from birth to baptism. And I'm really happy with you. See what I had to do in English? I had to shift into the present because we can't say that in the past. But that's what the aorist is saying. So, again, whenever you see something and the parsing doesn't line up with what the translations are doing, then you just have to assume there's something you don't know. Okay? I think there's enough on that. Any questions on the indicative? All right, let's go to chapter 9. We had time. Yeah, let me do this. We'll take a break when this is done. The chapter 9 is on Greek verb inflection, but now we're out of the indicative. We're in the non-indicative moods. So we talk about subjunctive, imperative, infinitive. And as I said last time, participle technically not a mood, but it's convenient to speak about it at the same time. The indicative is the mood of reality. If you want to state what is, and like my friend Dan Wallace says, that language is a portrayal of reality. It's not necessarily what is, it's how you want to present something. So if you want to present something as a fact, I am Bill, Ed is sitting next to me. Here, say hi to Ed. There's Ed. Ed's just about my oldest and best friend, and he does, when you contact, if you have questions on biblical training, give him a call. He's the one that will answer all of your questions, theology and otherwise.
Yes.
Yes, he goes, all right. The indicative is the mood of reality. It's the portrayal of reality. The subjunctive is one step removed. So you got to think of subjunctive. It's the idea of may or might, but it's broader than that. It's something that's not quite real. So for example, you would indicate purpose, right? I did this in order that I would pass Greek. In order that I would pass is subjunctive. Now in English, the subjunctive is going away, which is just really frustrating. But that's still what it does. It's indicating purpose. So you don't say, I'm studying hard so that I pass. You're saying I study hard so that I might pass. That's the subjunctive. Conditional sentences sometimes, not always, but sometimes are in the subjunctive. You know, if you love God, you will keep his commandments. Can be in the subjunctive because he's asking a real question. He's not stating it what is. He's saying, well, if you love him, if you love me, do you? I'm not going to assume you do, but if you do, you'll keep his commandments. So that's the subjunctive, one step removed from reality. may, might indicates purpose, condition, and some other things. The second thing, the second mood, well, actually third, I guess, is the imperative. And imperative is a mood of command. It's no big deal. Except that Greek has something we don't have. And that has a third person imperative. And I have some exercise to show you that. But all of our imperatives in English are implied second. If I say sit down, it's you sit down. Either you singular or you plural, but all the imperatives in English are second person. But Greek has a third person. And we generally revert to something like, let him do something. You have to use the word let in a pronoun if you want to specify its third person. The most famous imperatives are in Matthew 6, somewhere around here. 6, 9, 10. Therefore, in this way, pray. Notice it's an imperative. The coding in accordance is impera. This is a plural present middle imperative, meaning to pray. So pray, command, he's saying, command, you can, Father ours, the one in the heavens. So, our Father in heaven. What part of speech is that? Hallowed be your name. Worthless term, most worthless translation in the entire Bible. Means nothing. Nobody knows what it means. What part? What mood is that?
Imperative.
It's imperative, isn't it? Now, when we command God, grammatically we called it an entreaty, E-N-T-R, entreaty, because we don't command God, but the grammar is going to be an imperative, but you can't command God, so you entreat God. But the point is, it's grammatically. Look at that. We're calling on God to act. That's what an imperative does, right? May your name be revered. May it be holy. I think even the NLT, it says, may your name be kept holy. They're trying to get something imperative across. Look at this. Your kingdom come. Let your kingdom come. May your kingdom come. And the worthless NIV at this point, your kingdom come. Drives me nuts. May your will be done. Those are all imperatives. I'm convinced that if the church really knew that those are imperatives, nobody would pray them. Because what we're doing, we're calling on God to act. We're saying, God, make your name be seen to be what it is. Show your character to be what it is, holy. God, we want your kingdom to come. God, we want your will to be done. In fact, we want it done just as it's done in heaven. That's how we want it done on earth. And all these commands, I'm preaching, but how are all these things done? They start with you, don't they? You don't say, may your name be revered, and then go out and you live a lousy life. It starts with you. That's all these things start with you. You're saying, may your kingdom come in me, and then through me to spread to the world. May your will be done in me, and then spread to the rest of the world. Those are all imperatives. And I'm just convinced that if the church actually knew what we were praying, calling on God to act in and through me to change the world, I think most of our people would ask for another piece of gum and ignore it. Anyway, so imperatives are commands, and we have third persons. We looked at infinitives, mostly complementary, and then on participles, and all I'm doing in this chapter, and there's a whole lot more to come on participles, but all I'm saying is that either they're functioning as nouns, or what we call gerunds, or they're functioning as adjectives, or they're functioning adverbially. You remember I gave you the clue as to participles that function adverbially. Do you remember what the clue is? It's what's called anarthrous. It's not in the book. Anarthrous means no article. So when you're looking at the Greek text and there's not the word ha in one of its forms in front of it, there's a chance that it's adverbial. But let's go ahead and look at some exercises. And let me pull, where is it? There it is. All right, here are the verses I dinked up for participles. And again, we started this last time, but I'd really want to make sure it's clear. Mark 1:10. And immediately coming up, you notice that's a participle. It's part, P-A-R-T. I'm going to ask accordance that they'll quit abbreviating these things. There's tons of room. We don't need to abbreviate them anymore. Coming up, so there's a participle, out of the water, he saw being split open, another participle, the heavens, and the Spirit as a dove coming down on him. I think we looked at this last time. But is this an adjectival, substantival, or adverbial participle? It's adverbial. It's adverbial because there's no article in front of it. And you can see that it's telling you something about he saw. Now, here's what happens in participles. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But adverbial participles that are modifying the verb, can be translated many, many different ways. If you look at the different translations, you can see a huge variety in them. And this one, they're viewing as temporal. And immediately, as he was coming up out of the water, he saw. All the Greek says, and immediately coming out of the water, he saw. Well, can we be more specific? Should we be more specific? Well, most people are going to treat it as a time thing, that he saw when he was coming out of the water. But here, this participle is what? Adverbial, substantival, or adjectival? Just look at the English.
Adjectival, it modifies heavens.
Very good. Yeah. He's telling you something about the heavens. The heavens are opening, and it's the Spirit that's coming down. So it's adjectival as well. So, I mean, there's clues in the English as how you can really do this. I mean, in the Greek. But, well, you know what? I don't think I told you, but I think I should. When a participle is functioning adjectively, it's going to be in the same case and number as the word it's modifying. That's the linkage. So this is accusative plural masculine. This is accusative plural masculine. But this one is neuter singular accusative because pneuma is neuter singular accusative. I need to put this in the book. So when it's functioning adjectively, it's going to be in the same case, number, and gender. We haven't got to modifiers yet. That's where it's going to be, but I needed to show you that. That's why this verb is nominative. It's nominative because it has to agree with the implied subject in the verb. And immediately coming out. Well, who coming out? I don't know who's coming out. You know who's coming out? I don't know who's coming out. Oh, he saw. So this is Jesus coming out. That's really weird, isn't it? It wasn't John the Baptist. Well, John the Baptist saw it too, because he said he saw it. Anyway, but here, this is nominative because it has to agree with the subject of the verb. Does that make sense? That actually is a mouthful. Let me go back. If the participle is adverbial, it has to be anarthrous. and it's going to be modifying the verb. That's why most adverbial participles are nominative, because they're modifying the subject of the verb. If a participle is functioning as an adjective, it's going to agree with the word it modifies in case, number, and gender. And if a participle is functioning as a noun, as a substantive, its case is going to be determined by what part of speech it is. So the participle is functioning as the subject, it'll be in the nominative. If the participle is functioning as the direct object, it'll be in the accusative. You know, at break, I'm sure this is in the book in a later chapter. But does that make sense? Adverbial participles are always an arthrist, modifying the verb. Adjectival participles agree with the noun they modify in case, number, and gender. Substantival participles, gerunds in other words, are going to take their case from whatever their function is in the sentence. Is it a subject? Is it a direct object? Is it an indirect object? Is it, I don't know, an object of a preposition? But that's kind of what you need to know to be able to identify these participles as to what they are. Okay, does that make sense? All we're trying to do is, we trying to make sense of when you do your mouse over, how to explain what you're looking at. Okay?
I did have a quick question before moving on.
Yes.
About the imperative.
Yeah.
I don't know how to complete the search for those two questions.
Oh.
First one's how many second person plural imperatives are there in all of John's writings?
All right.
Finding the third person imperatives. Is that something that I can search, or would I just need to
Yeah,
go?
no, you can search it. Yeah. Let me just close on that. We'll take a break. 'Cause I think I just gave you enough to keep your mind busy for a while. Second person plural imperatives in John. So the first thing you do is that you've got to limit the text to John.
You show screen?
Thank you. What would I do without you guys? I tell you.
Be teaching yourself.
Be teaching myself, yeah. Oh, that's kind of dangerous, kind of scary. What you would do is you set the range to John, set your Greek text and words, and then you go up here and you say, I want a verb tag, and in the tag, I want imperatives. And what was it? Was it all second person?
Second person plural.
It was I think it was second person for the first one.
There were two there, yeah.
And
second person plural in John. So second person plural. And there's 55 now. Actually, this John here is just the gospel. You'd have to make a different search for that. But that's how you find them. There's 55.
Okay.
So this drop down thing here is just absolutely fascinating on what you're able to do with it.
Oh, there were 46 verses, but the number way over to the right is the total.
Right. So yeah. So 50. Yeah. 46 verses, 55 hits. So 7 of them or so verses have more than one example. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Hey, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and go into word studies. Okay, and I'm actually going to pause the recording.
Mr. DeMille.
Okay, there you go. Oh, this is so cool. I can see you guys now. All right. All right, word studies. Yay. One of my all-time favorites. I should say up front, and you need to know that the title for my book, Mounce's Complete Expository Dictionary in Old and New Testament Words, was not my title. I did not ask to put my name in the title, but the publisher said if it's going to compete with Vines, it has to somehow sync up with Vines. And since Vine's name is in his title, my name is in my title. They said it is very good. Your name is a single syllable. That helps. But they said if you could change your name to a fruit or a vegetable, that would be even better to compete with Vine. He says, well, I don't think I'm going to change my last name to Apple. Bill Apple. No, I'm not going to do that.
Can I ask a question? This may be a dumb question, but what is the difference in an expository dictionary and a lexicon?
I have no idea.
Okay.
They wanted to kind of put every word in the title they could to give the impression there wasn't something beyond it. And so we're doing, hopefully in a year, the 3rd edition of Greek for the Rest of Us and the 2nd edition of the dictionary. And there's another book. What else did I write? No, that fits in with that. Anyway.
Your interlinear?
Oh yeah, Nick, they're not going to update that. So yeah, we're going to do a 3rd edition of Greek for the Rest of Us and a 2nd on the dictionary. And we're going to look at retitling it because it's just too long and convoluted, and Vine's name is on the cover more than mine. And that's too much marketing. So anyway, we'll,
when will there be a nice leather-bound copy of the Mount's New Testament?
probably never. I like the translation. It's it was just, I like it, but it's I'm not going to be binding my own stuff anytime soon. Okay, word studies. So I covered the basics in the chapter and in the video. I guess I should just ask before we start jumping to, is there any question? So there's basically 4 stages, right? You find out what word deserves a word study. You find the Greek word behind it. You see what the Greek word meant in what its semantic range is. And then you see which part of that semantic range is reflected in that particular context. In other words, all that is to say, what did it mean in this historical context? And then how do I say the same thing in English? Okay, so translation, word studies are all the same thing. But you have to initially put yourself back into its original context, see the range of meaning. What does it mean here? And then how do I say the same thing in English? All right? So let's, let's say the idea would be you're reading along. I'm making this up as I go here. In Romans 3, and you're just reading along. But if our unrighteousness demonstrates the righteousness of God, what shall we say? Is God unjust to inflict wrath on us? I'm sure Ehrman would say yes. But let's say that's kind of an interesting word. All right. So let's do a word study. Again, I'm just, or did you guys come up with any words you would like to look at? Did anything kind of strike you?
Yes, doxazo.
Doxazo? Oh, to glorify?
Yes. Or glory.
There are also 2 words for the verb to know, oida and gnosko.
Gnosko.
Yeah, and I wondered where they overlap or if they do.
All right, that's a good one. Because there's gnosko, there's the emphatic form epignosko. There's different things. All right. He was in the world, and the world was created by him, and the world did not know him. Huh. Okay. So to get to the Greek, obviously, you just do your mouse over and it shows it's GK number 1182. You can see it highlighted over here. And you notice that this is one. You'll notice that this word is 1182. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
When you go over the Greek, it's 1097. Here's the difference. If you're in my text, those are the GK numbers. Now, you can see it on the bottom left. GK is 1182. But in every other text, they use the Strong's number. And the Strong's number is 1097. Okay, so that's just an oddity of my stuff. Everyone else uses Strong's, but I caved into Zondervan pressure and used GK numbers. Okay, so that's why the numbers are different. How you get to where you want to go is all going to be the same way. It's just that explains the different numbers. So in accordance, you triple click. And again, this assumes you have the dictionary. Let me make that a little bit bigger.
Is there a way to sync it up so that when you search a word in the Greek text, it also searches it in your dictionary?
Not in accordance that I know of.
Okay.
But I'll show you how to do it in 2 other pieces of software. So on Eggnon, it's the lexical form is gnosko. Remember, the lexical form is the first person, singular, present indicative. So there's gnosko. Now this is BDAG, so this is the really big lexicon. To arrive at knowledge is someone or something, and the glosses are know about, make acquaintance of. Okay, so just kind of generic. And then they give you all kinds of subdivisions. To acquire information through some means, to learn about, to ascertain. In other words, to come to know. So it means not only I know, but I came to know something, I acquired it. Or you could grasp the significance of something, understand, comprehend. So I can know it, or I can come to know it, or I can really understand it. Now, this has actually been a great word, thanks. I'll do this in the book. To perceive, just to notice something. Oh yeah, I know that. Or, sexual relationships. I mean, this all. So okay, so that's your semantic range. Okay, right there. That's one way to do it. Just to page through it and see what comes up. Now, if you pick a smaller dictionary like mine, this is not my word dictionary. This is just a little dictionary that goes out with the Mounts NT. And it's just an old public domain one that I cleaned up a little, but you can kind of get a range of ideas as to what it means. Okay? So that's one way to do it. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll do that second time. Okay. Yeah.
So if in your dictionary or in this dictionary, I mean, I felt as if I was sort of cheating when I looked in your dictionary and there was this handy list. I thought, is that the semantic range? By glancing at this, have I discovered the semantic range?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Somebody else did all the work for me, in other words.
Well, that's why you buy the book. Now, a couple of things here on the little dictionary. If you click in any one of these, what it's going to do is show you every place that gnosko occurs, but in one of those English translations. Now, there's going to be a ton of them, so I'm not going to do it. But that's what this is. This is Accordance came up with this, and it's really a handy feature. I like to do this one. Glucose means sweet. Click there. And now you can see where this word is actually translated. So this is a second way to do it. It can mean fresh. That'd be fresh water here, or something that's sweet, like honey. So another way to find a semantic range, and you would not do this if the word occurs, hundreds of times, but if it doesn't occur a ton of times, then you just click on there, and you got your Englishman search. It's based on the Greek, but it's showing you the range. So glucose can mean fresh or sweet. But now here's the other thing. You see this? You see this little arrow here? This is pointing to the bigger area on the front of my dictionary. And if you click there, here is your word study on the word to know. Starting with the Hebrew, bin and yada and gnosko, epignosko, epistomai, and there's our friend oida.
Ah.
So that's what this is all about. These are hyperlinked into my bigger word dictionary. I love how Accordance has done this. It's really intuitive, it's easy, and it puts just a tremendous amount of information at your hands very quickly. And by the way, on my dictionary, I was just the editor. I had about 40 people writing it. We want to make sure that the guts of the meaning of the word was in the first paragraph. In other words, you can read on and get more detailed stuff, but we wanted to make sure even if you read just one paragraph, you got something you could preach. That was the whole idea. And so sometimes you can get not too detailed, but can get detailed. But that's the first paragraph that matters. All right. So to go, so that's another way to do it. You can also right-click on the Greek, and if you say search for, the lexeme is going to be the lexical form. So this would do a search on gnosko, all the samples of gnosko in the New Testament. This is going to search on just the form egno. So if you wanted of all the first person singular aorist active indicatives, you would do that. The root is a much broader concept. The root, you can have a verb that shares the same root with a noun and an adjective. So the root is really the most basic form of the word as it shows. So for example, for doxazo, here's doxazo, spirit had been given because Christ had been glorified. If you do a search on the root, now you've got the noun, glory, and you have the verb, but you also, eudokia, a related word. You can see the dok in there. So that's when you search on the root, you can get basically all the related Greek forms. But wait, there's more, as we like to say. You look it up in a dictionary. You can do that Englishman search either multiple ways, or you can search on the Greek. I'm going to switch over for you Logos folks. Like what verse were we on? John 7:39. No, that can't be right. That's not a Bible verse. John 7:39. John. Oh, they're not scrolling together. That's 7. Something's wrong here, guys. This is John 5. I don't want John 5. I want John. Hey, Accordance guy, Logos guys, what am I doing wrong?
Is it that the search is still on for Ekomai? Or do you want that?
This is just John 7. Anyway, I'm making a mistake. John 7:39. John, and she keeps switching. I don't want John. This is why I like accordance. But anyway, so there's the glorified. Now you'll notice see the right-hand column. This is to answer your other question. The way accordance, the Logos is set up is that if you just click on stuff, the dictionary changes and goes to the definition of the Greek word behind it. So you got to triple click in accordance, but that's how you can do it. But the really cool thing in Logos is you go into the interlinear and then you click here to define what you want to be in interlinear, and lo nida is the important one. And 730. Here's the word. See if it's. All right, it's not going to do it yet. I had to reload my copy of Logos on my computer. Normally, see right here, it just says we don't find it. That's because I haven't downloaded yet. What you can do on Logos is that if you just do a mouse over, it pops up the Lo and Nida. It's called the semantic range or semantic domain dictionary. Lo and Nida are the two linguistic people behind all of Wycliffe and SIL, all those translators. And they made a dictionary that focuses on semantic range for words. And in the Logos implementation, when you do a mouse over, it pops up. It just shows you the semantic domain, semantic range quite well. And I guess I'm going to have to install that. But for you Logos guys, that's a quick way to get it. And then the others, we haven't talked about this much, but this is the Olive Tree app. And one thing is, come on. On that one, when you do the mouse overs, it's showing the lower left-hand corner. It's showing you all that information as well. But we don't do this because I've not talked about this at all. So anyway, there's your different ways to get semantic ranges, okay? Look it up in the dictionary, do an Englishman search or a Greek search, find the range of words, okay? Then what you want to do is once you get the range, you figure out what fits this particular context. I'm going to go to Sarks. I'm a little more familiar with that.
When you say Englishman's search, does it just mean that you're searching in English?
No, thank you. An Englishman search is you're searching in Greek, but you're showing the results in English.
Oh.
So that's what Strong was doing when he invented his numbering system, because people couldn't read Greek concordances as easily. So he wanted to search based on Greek and on Hebrew, but he needed to show the results in English. So I'm gonna put the NIV up just because it's going to illustrate this better. Who was born children of God, not of the flesh, nor the will of the flesh, nor of the will of a man, a husband, but have been born of God. So here's flesh. Well, I guess, guys, here's another way to do semantic ranges. I just thought of it. It would be fun. Is CSB and NET and especially the NLT. Now when you do your mouse overs, you're seeing there's no Yeah, there's no tagging in the NLT, so it's not gonna be automatic. But here you can see that children of God are not born of the will of the flesh. Well, what does that mean? Well, the NIV says human decision. CSB says the flesh. The Net Bible says human desire. Whenever you see translations varying like this, what you're seeing is that the translators are having trouble getting the idea across, and that there's not a real simple, easy way to be able to translate this word. But now you come down here, and the word became flesh, everyone says the same thing, except over here in the NLT, it's he became human. All right? Huh. It says
Skenosen is quite an interesting word there too, isn't it, Bill? Because doesn't it really mean to pitch your tent?
Yeah. So here's flesh. Yeah, made his dwelling, dwelt, took up residence, made his home. Let's look up and see what the word means. Take up residence. How do you get to pitch your tent? How does it do it? Yeah, I've heard that too. I'm just trying to think.
Well, it was showing in the bottom when you were just mousing over it. It came up to pitch your tent. Pitch a tent.
Pitch a tent, dwell in a tent. Yeah, that's the gloss. It's interesting that BDAG doesn't even have that as an option, does it?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I always heard it preached that meant tabernacled among us.
Well, that's how I've always heard.
There's a reference to tenting in Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I know theologically where it's coming from. I just thought that there was more of a linguistic. This is Lo and Nida. To come to dwell in a place, defined psychologically or spiritually, to take up residence, to come to reside, to come to dwell with them. That's Lo and Nida. Well, let's see what the rule. Well, I don't know. I don't have it. Give me a break. Are you serious? There you go. Often retains the notion of pitching a tent. I wonder why I said retains. Now, I'm wondering if it's coming from the Hebrew.
Would this be an example, Bill, of, in that sort of concentric circles you had of looking for meaning, where you might even go to something like Liddell and Scott and try and get the sort of contemporary usage of the word?
Yeah, you have to be careful of Liddell and Scott, because once you get outside of the Bible, you have no guarantee that the word's being used the same way it is in the Bible. So if Liddell and Scott will give you stuff from 4th, 5th century BC, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same as how the word is used in the time of Christ. But
may I ask you about Kittle, that like 12-volume set?
Don't get it.
What is that?
What is it? It is a magnificent lexicon. I have it. I just don't have it installed here, I don't think. It's a 12-volume work on all the meanings of the Greek words. It's the standard in the field, and it's way more complicated and dense. I mean, there's some of these entries go on for 150 pages. There are two. If you want more detailed dictionaries, trying to think of how I could show it to you. Spell my editor's name right. Okay, that's the old cover. This is, oh, there it is. See this book? This book is absolutely massively good. It is about twice as long as mine. And Verlin took a 3-volume dictionary and condensed it into one. It's 8.5 by 11, about 2 inches thick. We call it the greatest kept secret in all of Amazon, in all of Zondervan, because people just don't know about it. But if you want to do more word studies, past what my dictionary does, this is the word to get. Every Greek word in the Bible is discussed in it. And the entries are complete, but they're not exhausting. It's really just a marvelous dictionary. So the New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology, oh, that's mislabeled. It should say abridged. There is a 3 to 4 volume. Actually, Moses Silva redid it. It's 5 volumes now. It's called the New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology. But Verlin's is the one volume abridgment, and make sure that's the one you get. I'm really surprised at that price point. It's a $50 book. Okay. Sometimes people put things up on Amazon if they think you can't get a hold of it. I'm sure it's not out of print. Actually, can you make me a note? I'm going to make sure it's not out of print. I'm going to go screaming into the night if it is. So this is a really, really good book. The other one, oh, come on. Where is it? Kittle, Jeff.
E.L.?
Geoffrey. Oh, he's a little nervous. Just.
Kittle is E.L.?
Did I get it backwards? No images available. Okay, so there's the big set. Jeffrey Bromley, professor at Fuller, gave me the only C I got in seminary. Little baggage there. All right. It's a church history class. Anyway, it's a red book, and he translated all the German and abridged it into one volume. When I did my doctoral thesis, I lived out of the one volume edition. That I used that in the Oldbauer, and it's very, very good. It's a little more. Bromley's going to have a little more secular usage in it. Verlin limited himself a little more to biblical, including the Septuagint. But those two are very, very good. I'm really sorry there's not a picture of it. But if you want to do more word studies, then those are the ones to get. Okay? I thought I did. No, that's not the card. All right, I'm going to list these to you all on this page under course materials, and I'll have a thing that says recommended text, and I'll put links for those 2 books in there.
Are they not available inside of Accordance?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea why they're not coming up. Yes, I say that, and we're gonna.
The Verbrugge one appears to be, I couldn't find the Bromley when I'm searching around on their website.
Yeah, if you search on Accordance and put in Little Kittle, it'll come up.
There it is, right there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what we always call it, Little Kittle. There you go. So that's the red cover. $60 and $70. That's a really, really good price. And I know they have Verbrugge because I was the one that set up all the books they were going to set up. There it is. And it's $50. They're both very good. I would get Verbrugge first. But there's no reason to get the 10 volumes of Kittle and Moses Silva. I'll put these all in, but it's there. This is Moses Silva's update of the full series that Verlin abbreviated. And again, I would buy this series way before I would buy Full of Kittle. Moses Silva is a fascinating guy. He's Cuban. Our office, we're right next to each other, Gordon Conwell. And this was when, who's the blind opera singer? Bocelli?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is when Bocelli started getting kind of famous. And it was late one night for some reason. I was at my office working, and I was playing Bocelli, and Moses walks by. It's M-O-I-S, so Moises actually is more accurate. Moises walked by, and I said, you know, the nice thing is that about listening to classical music is I don't know what the words are, so I don't have to be bothered by, you know, immoral words. And he goes, huh. And he started singing along with Bocelli, doing an instantaneous translation into English out of Italian. I said, thanks, Moises. Now you ruined the song for me. Now I know the words are lousy and I can't listen to it anymore. The Lord has given some people some pretty amazing abilities, abilities that far exceed my own. And Moses is a phenomenal scholar. But anyway, that's his update of those things. So I'll put those in, but they're all good words. So in terms of the word studies, you find words that are important to study. You get the Greek behind it. You figure out the semantic range. You look and see what it means in context, and then you pick the right one that fits that context. So here's what I want you to do. We're running out of time. Don't look at the homework for this chapter yet. I'm going to spend time on it tomorrow, and I want to do some tweaking. And plus, I'll update the page for these different books. So wait until I can make sure. Like that tabernacled word, I'm going to put in. I just got to find out why we think it's tabernacled. I'm assuming that that was the Greek that was used to translate the Hebrew for the tabernacle. But I want to make sure of that before I do it. And
so wait to do the chapter 10 homework is what you're saying?
Have you already done it, Faith?
No, I haven't done chapter.
Okay, good. Yeah. Go ahead and just wait. Just to I just want to make sure I get it right for you guys.
Okay.
And then, but for those of you taking for credit, Paul still, you'll need to do one good word study, okay? And so I'll suggest words that, you know, you could write 3 or 4 pages on, okay? So you'll need to do a word study for credit. For those others, I'd really encourage you to do it, though. I mean, the reason I'm spending so much time in the software is I want you to be really comfortable and used to it. And this stuff all stays theoretical unless you actually just jump in and do it. So, you know, memorizing the vocabulary and doing the exercises and doing a word study, it's really important that you do them to really get a handle on this stuff.
When you just said 3 to 4 pages, I'm completely at a loss. Okay. Is there a model you could show us? What is involved? What is it? What do you want from us?
The template. We want the template.
Never change from students to what do you want from you?
What is it?
Let me dig through my stuff, and I'll find some of the word studies I did. In my commentary on the pastorals, one of the key features is I did a ton of word studies, and let me dig around, and I'll put some samples up. I used to have all my old college notes, but in a fit of I'm tired of living in the past and want to live in the future, I threw them all away. So I don't have any of my old word studies, but I will find something. But basically what you do is you'd get a word, and you would say, you know, here's the range of meaning for the word. You'll maybe get a verse to illustrate each of the meanings. You would look at the actual passage, the verse that you're wanting to translate, and see of all the range of meanings, what does it mean in this context? And then you spell out what that verse means. But let me Let me write that out. I've written this somewhere. You know what? There's an introduction. I've written this stuff so much I don't know where everything is. I've got stuff I'll be able to post. But if I give me a day to get this stuff together. Any other questions I can get together for you guys tomorrow?
Just a real quick question. I've recently run across some words that are just used like one time in the New Testament, and occasionally, you know, like in Colossians 2:14, the word for that's handwriting in the Old King James there, and the word is found in the Septuagint, and I'm wondering, is it for word studies? Is it valid to look into the usage in the Septuagint, or is that too far removed from the New Testament to be useful?
I'm sorry. I'm in Colossians 2:14. The handwriting. Oh, the certificate of debt. A handwritten document, a certificate of indebtedness, an account record of debts. Okay, that's what it means, yeah. The basic rule is that circle that's in the book, and you go out as far away from the verse as you need to in order to be comfortable that you understand what it means. But the further you go out from the center of the circle, the less confident you can be that the words are used the same way. I'll give you an illustration. There's two words for other in Greek, allos and heteros. I never can remember which one it is. Allos means another of the same kind. Heteros means another of a different kind. So if I had an apple and I asked for an allos, I'd be asking for another apple. But if I had an allos, if I had an apple and I asked for a heteros, I would be asking for another of a different kind, maybe a cucumber, or maybe a different kind of apple. But not just another one, but one that's different. That classical difference doesn't exist in the Koine period. You can, when in Hebrews, I think it's Hebrews, talks about the covenant as another covenant. He goes back, oh, no, that's kainos, and that's everyone. Anyway, allos and heteros, that nice, neat, clean distinction that existed in the 6th century BC doesn't exist in Jesus' day because the words are used interchangeably. So that's the problem of going too far away from the middle of the circle, is that, you know, language just changes. And, you know, if you're 400 to 500 years different, languages could have really changed. Now, there's some, I talk about some of these things in the book, but like on allos and heteros, do you know a word that heteros came into in English?
Heterodoxy.
Heterodoxy, yeah. There's orthodoxy, which is thinking the right things, and then heterodoxy means teachings that are essentially different and therefore heretical. So you can hear in that word the original meaning of heteros as another of a different kind comes through. Paul tells Timothy in 1 Timothy 1 to tell the false teachers to quit teaching a heteros doctrine, doctrines that are essentially different. So every once in a while, the classical nuance comes through into English, but you can't always assume that's the case. All right. So you just have to, the further you get, if you have to go outside the circle, you have to go outside the circle. And going into the Septuagint is generally not too far. Because remember, what the Septuagint did was they assigned Greek words to all the Hebrew concepts. So the most famous is, how do you translate Yahweh in the Septuagint? It's Kyrios. So when the New Testament uses Kyrios, it can use it as a good semantic range exercise. It can mean sir. It can mean Lord, like master, or it can mean Yahweh. And so like the woman at the well addresses Jesus as Kyrios. She's just being polite. She's just saying sir. But Jesus is our Kyrios. He's our master. He's also God. So if you believe in the heart that God raised him, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Kyrios and believe in his heart that God raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Guess what the most important decision you have to make in that verse is? What is Lord? Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. Do you have to confess that he's the boss, that he's the master? Or do you have to confess that he's Yahweh, that he's God? One of those is the means to salvation. The other one isn't. See, and all of a sudden, semantic ranges just became very important, didn't they? We're a doulos of Christ. Are we a slave of Christ, or are we a servant of Christ? There's some of these words that the semantic range is very, very critical in helping us understand the meaning of the verses. So that's why I'm saying the Septuagint's not too far, because they're the ones that made all the decisions as to the chesed. What's chesed? Chesed's covenantal faithfulness. What does it come into Greek as? Comes in as mercy. Do we take it that right? That God has chesed towards his children. He has elias. He has mercy toward his children. So when you read about mercy in the New Testament, it's not just, oh, he's such a nice guy, he's being so kind to the other person. It's saying, this is the kind of relationship covenantal relationship that God has with his children, and that we should have with one another. We should be treating one another in the same way that God treats his children. And that is with chesed. That means with faithfulness. Even in the midst of difficult times and even our failures, God continues to treat us with chesed, with mercy. It adds a whole new layer to the meaning of the word. See why word studies are so fun? These are just the ones on the top of my head. I mean, there's a whole lot more like this. So let me get the homework updated for tomorrow and then jump into it. But by now, you all are comfortable using your computer programs, right? I'm sorry. I'm going to close on this because out of fairness to my friends at Logos, I got to show you this one thing. This is where, see, I got to get rid of this thing. This is where Logos shines. Let's say you want to do, I'm just going to pick a word. I want to do a word study on this word. Let me turn this. What Logos does is when you click on this word, it highlights it in English as long as you hold the mouse down. You see where this is the word means to commit an act of adultery? That's the new feature. It didn't used to stay. If you just click, it's there and it goes away. Anyway, if you want to do a word study on the word for this, if you do a right click, that's not what I wanted to do. Guys, how do you bring up the word study? I did it right before class. It brings up these really cool charts. Oh, that is just bizarre. I did it right.
I believe it's in guides.
It's in, oh, that sounds right. Yeah, okay. So you pick the word you want. Okay, here's what I did. I said look up. I said look up. Good grief. Okay, we're going to go to guides and say a Bible word study. All right. All right, I'm going to figure out how to do this and I'll show you next time. It brings up charts and pie charts and just all kinds of really cool things. And I have no idea why it's not doing it now.
Yeah, I think in that search there where you had the word, I typed in an English word and it did pop up all kinds of charts and things.
Okay, so if you did flesh. Oh, I got to click in guides, Bible word store, flesh. There you go. This stuff is available in the Greek too, but so this is showing you the Hebrew words translated flesh. The main one is basar. Get down into Greek, it's almost always a translation of sarx, but it also can be a translation of this word. And then you get the different senses. There's your semantic range. And these are the phrases the word occurs in. And then if you want to search, an Englishman search, you click New International Version, and here's all the places that flesh occurs. So Logos really has some amazing tools for word studies. But I'll get a little better at this before next
So
time.
in the pie chart, it looked like you could click on search.
Yes.
Is that
Click on one, I'm sorry.
cool? Yeah, well, that's what
Yeah.
that's cool.
So there's sarx, basic meaning flesh, with all the different ways in which it can be used in whatever translation I have selected. Here's how basar is translated in all its. So there's your semantic range as well. So this is, Logos really has a leg up on word studies over Accordance. It's considerably better. And I'm assuming that little thing in the upper right-hand corner is just showing distribution throughout the Old Testament. So anyway, a lot of fun things. Okay, so here's my last word of encouragement. You guys, we're done with grammar. Now there's 20 more chapters that are going to be fine-tuning how the grammar functions. How's the genitive function? How does the imperfect function? Things like that. But you're done with all the basic grammar that you need. All right. And so everything else is fine-tuning. So go through your stuff, make sure you're caught up, come to class with questions if you have any, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Have a good week.
Hey, be sure you say hey to Paul for me. Appreciate it.
I will do that, Bill.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.